Hello, hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's time to pick out my 24 must-reads for 2024. As always, I increase this number as the years increase. I'm gonna get to 2056 and be like, far out, 56 books, but while it's still small, let's crack straight into the 24 books that I can't wait to read next year. A lot of these books I kind of have just picked on the basis that they've been on my TBR for a really long time and I need to read them, so I don't actually know that much about them. Let's crack straight in with some paperbacks, starting with One of Us is a Line by Karen M. McManus. I read, I think it's Two Can Keep a Secret recently and really enjoyed it, so I thought let's try this series out. It follows 5 students who walk into detention and only 4 leave alive. Yale hopeful Bronwyn has never publicly broken a rule. Sports star Cooper only knows what he's doing in the baseball diamond. Bad boy Nate is one misstep away from a life of crime. Prom queen Addie is holding together the cracks in her perfect life. And outsider Simon, creator of the notorious gossip app at Bayview High, won't ever talk about any of them again. He dies 24 hours before he could post their deepest secrets online. Investigators conclude it's no accident. All of them are suspects. Everyone has secrets, right? What really matters is how far you'll go to protect them. I'm getting a little bit of Gossip Girl vibes from this, and just from the first line, Yale hopeful Bronwyn has never publicly broken a rule, my eyes immediately gravitate to the word publicly, so I'm like, what you been doing in the background, honey? I'm intrigued. Next up, we have The Traitor Queen, which is the sequel to The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. The Bridge Kingdom follows a young woman named Lara, who is a princess raised in a kingdom that has been very much brainwashing her to believe that the Bridge Kingdom is the root of all evil. They're cutting everybody off from supplies and the ability to live. And so she was raised to go to the Bridge Kingdom and marry the king there and then take it apart from the inside, only to, upon arrival, find that maybe things aren't exactly what they seem. This is the sequel to that book. It follows her kind of trying to save, I guess, the kingdom that she was trying to destroy. I'm super keen to read it and I'm determined that it's gonna be read. Next up, we have The Queen of Nothing, which is the 3rd book in the Cruel Prince, I think it is, series by Holly Black. This series follows Jude, who is a human girl who, after her parents were murdered by a fairy, I think, or fae, she was then taken in by that fae, her and her sister, and raised in the fairy court. So as a human, she kind of has to figure out how she's gonna survive, and it's a bit of a bully romance between her and one of the princes. There's a whole red wedding style situation that happens in the story, and it is absolutely nuts. The Cruel Prince, at least. I've read the 1st and 2nd book in an absolute tailwind spiral, and I never actually got around to picking up the 3rd, so I'm keen to find out what this one's going on. Next up, we've got Midnight's Twins by Holly Race, and as for what it's about, it says Londoner Fern King is about to uncover Anwen, the dream mirror of our world. But Anwen is as full of dangers as it is wonders. It is a place where dreams and nightmares come to life. Anwen is protected by an ancient order, and when Fern's hated twin Ollie is chosen to join their ranks, Fern will have to do whatever she can to prove she is one of them too. With nightmares becoming harder to defeat and something dark threatening both Anwen and our own world, Fern realizes the real dangers we face in our sleep are far more terrifying than any nightmare, because if you can influence someone's dreams, you can control their thoughts. Next up, we've got Notes on an Execution by Danyaka Kafka. I saw a lot of people talking about this book earlier this year, and that made me really want to read it. So as for what it's about, it says Ansel Packer is scheduled to die in 12 hours, but this is not his story. Ansel doesn't want to die, he wants to be celebrated, understood, yet now he awaits the same fate he forced on those girls years ago. This is the story of the women who survive. As the clock ticks down, a mother, a sister, and a detective reckon with the choices that culminate in tragedy, the impact on those in its wake, and the possibility of redemption. Then we've got a book that's been on my TBR, just languishing there for literally forever, I think 2 years now, and I need to get around to reading it, and that is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. As you can tell, it's a bit of a Halloween-y romance, so not quite this season, but hey, when October comes around, maybe I'll finally pick it up. And as for what it's about, it says Vivian Jones handled the biggest breakup of her life the way that any witch would. Vodka, bubble baths, and a curse on her ex. That was 9 years ago. Now Reese Penhallow, descendant of the town's founders, breaker of hearts and still irritatingly gorgeous, is back. Rhys has returned to the quaint town of Graves Glen to recharge the ley lines and make an appearance at the annual Fall Festival. But when his every move results in calamity, Vivi realizes that hexing her ex might not have been so harmless after all. As the curse starts to affect the magic of the town, resulting in murderous wind-up toys, an outraged ghost, and a surprisingly talkative cat, Vivi and Rhys must put their personal feelings aside and work together to break the curse and save not just the town, but also Rhys's life. Because I became obsessed with this author this year, of course I'm going to pick up another book by her, and this time we're going to go with something different, and that is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This book is about Lowen Ashley, who is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue loving her. After loving Not My Problem by this author, of course I want to pick up another book from her, and that will be The Falling in Love montage by Kiara Smith. As for what this is about, it says Saoirse has a simple plan for the long hot summer before uni. Party, watch horror movies, and forget all her troubles by kissing girls. Between getting over her ex and dealing with the pain of her mum's illness, Saoirse feels she deserves a break. Enter the scene Ruby, rom-com fan and optimist. Ruby is the prettiest girl Saoirse's ever seen, but Saoirse doesn't want to get into another relationship, so Ruby challenges her to try a summer romance with the serious parts left out, just like in the movies. But what happens when the falling in love montage ends? Another book that's been languishing on my TBR for way too long is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and the fact that I haven't read this duology has stopped me reading every other book by this author, and I need to get around to this so I can get around to all the other ones that I want to read. As for what this is about, I believe it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's set in 1926 in Shanghai, which hums to the tune of debauchery. A blood feud between two gangs runs the street red, leaving the city in chaos. Juliet Kai is the proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals far above the law. Roma Montalhov is the prodigal son of her greatest rivals, the Whiteflowers, who have fought the Scarlets for generations. He is also Juliet's first love and first betrayal. When a deadly madness strikes gangsters on both sides, the people start to whisper of a contagion and a monster in the shadows. And as the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma must set their guns and grudges aside and work together. For if they can't stop this mayhem, there will be no city left to rule. Man, that sounds daunting. Next up, we have Cursed Crowns, which is the sequel to Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. And this follows two sisters who are twins separated at birth. One of them was poised, prepped, and raised to become the ruler of this kingdom, and she's had a regent who's kind of been ruining her life. And the other one was sent off to live with the witches who've been ostracized and persecuted by this kingdom. The one sent off to live with the witches hatched up a plan that she was going to do a bit of a twin swap in order to take down the kingdom from the inside and reinstate the witches' power that they lost all those years ago. The twin swap actually happens. One girl gets sent to live in the kingdom. The other girl gets taken and kidnapped in the night and sent to live with the witches, only to discover that the threat that she was raised to believe was very much prevalent in this sort of witch community isn't exactly what she always thought it was. There are romances in this series as well. I think there's a friends to lovers and an enemies to lovers romance, which love both of those tropes, and I love this series. The end of the first book I think was a bit of a cliffhanger, so I'm keen to find out what happens next. Next up, we have A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. As for what this one is about, it says choose your player. The half-fae outcast, desperate for acceptance, the tempestuous fury, hell-bent on revenge, the dutiful prince, determined to earn his place, or the brooding guardian, burdened by a terrible secret. Each holds a key to solving a series of murders that threaten to expose fairies to the human world, but they cannot do it alone. To track down the killer, they will have to form a tenuous alliance, putting their differences and conflicts aside. Failure risks the destruction of the fairy and human worlds alike, and time is running out. Next up, we are going into the hardbacks, starting with Wayward by Amelia Hart. As for what this is about, it follows 3 timelines. The first is Kate in 2019. Kate flees London, abandoning everything for Cumbria and Wayward Cottage, inherited from her great aunt. There, a secret lurks in the bones of the house, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. The second timeline is 1942, following Violet. Violet is more interested in collecting insects and climbing trees than in becoming a proper young lady, until a chain of shocking events changes her life forever. And then the third timeline is in 1619, and we're following Altha. Altha is on trial for witchcraft, accused of killing a local man. Known for her uncanny connection with nature and animals, she is a threat that must be eliminated. But wayward women belong to the wild, and they cannot be tamed. Next up, we've got The Ugly Truth by Elsie North, and the whole premise of this book is just absolutely fascinating to me. So hopefully it will be for you too. As for what it's about, it says Melanie Lang has disappeared. Her father, Sir Peter Lang, says she is a danger to herself and has been admitted to a private mental health clinic. Her ex-husband, Finn, and best friend, Nell, say she's been kidnapped. The media will say whatever gets them the most views. But whose side are you on? Hashtag save Melanie, hashtag help Peter. I mean, that whole idea sounds fascinating. I think there's mixed media all through here, different perspectives. I'm just super intrigued. Next up, we've got The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. I think I got this in a Fairy Loot subscription box and I still haven't read it, but I think the edition is just absolutely incredible. So I need to pick it up at some point. And as for what it's about, it says, deadly storms and ancient curse, will her sacrifice save them all? For generations, deadly storms have ravaged Mina's homeland. Her people believe the sea god, once their protector, now curses them with deaths and despair. To appease him, each year a maiden is thrown into the sea in the hopes that one day the true bride will be chosen and end the suffering. Many believe Shim Chong, Mina's brother's beloved, to be the legendary true bride. But on the night Chong is to be sacrificed, Mina's brother follows her, knowing that to interfere is a death sentence. To save her brother, Mina throws herself into the water in Chong's stead. Swept away to the spirit realm, a magical city of lesser gods and mythical beasts, Mina finds the sea god, trapped in an enchanted sleep. With the help of a mysterious young man and a motley crew of demons, gods, and spirits, Mina sets out to wake him and bring an end to the storms once and for all. But she doesn't have much time. A human cannot live long in the land of the spirits, and there are those who would do anything to keep the sea god from waking. Next up, we've got another sequel, and that is Foxglove by Adeline Grace. This is the sequel to Belladonna, and it follows a girl whose name I think is Signa, who, following the death of her mother when she was just a baby, this girl feels like she's been plagued by death, both literally and figuratively, in the sense that death actually follows her around from place to place. So since the death of her mother, she's been handed off from family member to family member, with each circumstance ending in tragedy as a family member dies and she's then carted off to the next one. She gets to Thorngrove Manor and decides that this is going to be the last time, only to arrive to find the house is in a complete disarray. You've got a son who's just trying to repair the family's reputation in light of his father's excesses. You've got the father who's partying his grief away. You've got the mother who passed away a number of years ago, and you've got the sister who seems to be ailing from the same illness that plagued the mother right before she died. Signa is determined to disrupt her own curse that seems to bring death to every family that she lives with, and so she recruits the help of a young stable boy in order to sort this whole situation out, as well as reluctantly accepting the help of Death himself. Next up, we've got Ace of Spades by Farida Abike-Iyamide. I am apologizing so much if that is not how you pronounce her name. And as for what it's about, it says, welcome to Niveus Private Academy, where money paves the hallways and the students are never less than perfect. Until now, because anonymous texter Aces is bringing 2 students' dark secrets to light. Talented musician Devon buries himself in rehearsals, but he can't escape the spotlight when his private photos go public. Head girl Chiamaka isn't afraid to get what she wants, but soon everyone will know the price she has paid for power. Someone is out to get them both, someone who holds all the aces, and they're planning much more than a high school game. I've been told this is kind of Dark Academia-esque, so I'm super keen. The last paperback before we get to the Kindle books is Lightlark by Alex Aster, which I think has a movie or a TV series coming out soon. And it says, welcome to the Centennial. Every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears for only 100 days to host a deadly game, where the rulers of 6 realms fight to break their curses and win unparalleled power. Each ruler has something to hide. Each curse is uniquely wicked. To break them and save themselves and their realms, one ruler will die. To survive, Isla Crown must lie, cheat, betray, even as love complicates everything. Getting into the last books, we've got the Kindle books left on this list, and we're going to start with A Restless Truth by Freya Marske, which is the sequel to A Marvelous something. I can't remember the name of that book, but it's the second book in the Last Binding series. And this one says, magic, murder, shipboard romance. Maud Blythe has always longed for adventure. She expected plenty of it when she volunteered to serve as an old lady's companion on an ocean liner in order to help her beloved older brother unravel a magical conspiracy that began generations ago. What she didn't expect was for the old lady in question to turn up dead on the first day of the voyage. Now she has to deal with a dead body, a disrespectful parrot, and the lovely, dangerously outrageous Violet Debenham, who's also returning home to England. Violet is everything that Maud has been trained to distrust, yet can't help but desire. A magician, an actress, and a magnet for scandal. Surrounded by the open sea and a ship full of suspects, Maud and Violet must first drop the masks that they've both learned to wear before they can unmask a murderer and somehow get their hands on a magical object worth killing for, without ending up dead in the water themselves. Then we've got The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, which is the first book in the Sand Sea trilogy. Again, I've got this on my Kindle, and it says, Luli Al-Nazari is the Midnight Merchant, a criminal who, with the help of her djinn bodyguard, hunts and sells illegal magic. When she saves the life of a cowardly prince, she draws the attention of his powerful father, the Sultan, who blackmails her into finding an ancient lamp that has the power to revive the barren land, at the cost of sacrificing all djinn. With no choice but to obey or be executed, Luli journeys with the Sultan's oldest son to find the artifacts. Aided by her bodyguard, who has secrets of his own, they must survive ghoul attacks, outwit a vengeful djinn queen, and confront a malicious killer from Luli's past. And in a world where story is reality and illusion is truth, Luli will discover that everything, her enemy, her magic, even her own past, is not what it seems, and she must decide who she will become in this new reality. Inspired by stories from 1001 Nights, The Stardust Thief weaves the gripping tale of a legendary smuggler, a cowardly prince, and a dangerous quest across the desert to find a legendary magical lamp. It sounds a little bit like Aladdin, I won't lie. Then we're giving Christina Lauren, the author duo, another chance with Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, because I own it, so why not? And it says, Hazel Camille Bradford knows she's a lot to take, and frankly, most men aren't up to the challenge. If her army of pets and thrill for the absurd doesn't send them running, her lack of filter means she'll say exactly the wrong thing in a delicate moment. Their loss, she's a good soul in search of honest fun. Josh Im has known Hazel since college, where her zany playfulness proved completely incompatible with his mellow restraint. From the first night they met, when she gracelessly threw up on his shoes, to when she sent him an unintelligible email while in a post-surgical haze, Josh has always thought of Hazel more as a spectacle than a peer. But now, 10 years later, after a cheating girlfriend has turned his life upside down, going out with Hazel is a breath of fresh air. Not that Josh and Hazel date, at least not each other, because setting each other up on progressively terrible double-blind dates mean there's nothing between them, right? Next up, we've got the much anticipated last book in the Chestnut Springs series called Hopeless by Elsie Silver. And as for what it's about, it says, Bo Eaton is the town prince, a handsome military hero with a tortured past. I'm the outcast bartender, a shy girl from the wrong side of the tracks. He's 35 and all man, and I'm 22 and all virgin. He's also my fiance. Correction, my fake fiance. We start out as a bet. He doesn't believe that anyone holds my last name against me, so he offers me his to prove a point. It's a win-win. He gets a break from his concerned family's prying, and I get a chance to shed my family's reputation while I save up to ditch this small town. He says all I have to do is wear his ring, follow his lead, and pretend I can't keep my hands off of him in public. But it's what happens between us in private that blurs all those carefully drawn lines. It's what transpires behind closed doors that doesn't feel like pretending at all. This engagement was supposed to be for show. This agreement, it has an end date. He once told me he'd never fall in love. And yet here I am, head over heels for my fake fiance. Next up, we've got a book that definitely went mental a little bit this year in terms of how many people loving it, and it is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, which is the first book apparently in a series according to Goodreads. And it says a curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark fae magic, friendship and love in the start of a heartwarming and enchanting new fantasy series. Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is good at many things. She is the foremost expert on the study of fairies. She's a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. But Emily Wilde is not good at people. She could never make small talk at a party or even get invited to one, and she prefers the company of her books, her dog, and the fair folk. So when she arrives in the hardscrabble village of, I can't say that word, Emily has no intention of befriending the gruff townsfolk, nor does she care to spend time with another new arrival. Her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, that's an adorable name, who manages to charm the townsfolk, get in the middle of Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the Hidden Ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside the town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bambleby, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she'll have to unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. There's something that's just so wholesome about that. I love it. Next up, we've got Fortuna Sworn, which is the first book in a series by KJ Sutton, and it says, we were meant to be seductive. We were designed to lure humans in. Fortuna Sworn is the last of her kind. Her brother disappeared 2 years ago, leaving her with no family or species to speak of. She hides among humans, spending her days working at a bar and her nights searching for him. The bleak pattern goes on, until she catches the eye of a powerful fairy. He makes no attempt to hide that he desires Fortuna, and in exchange for her, he offers something irresistible. So Fortuna reluctantly leaves her safe existence behind to step back into a world of creatures and power. It soon becomes clear that she may not have bargained with her heart, but her very life. And very lastly, we've got When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This book says Alex Green is a young girl in a world much like ours, except for its most seminal event, the mass dragoning of 1955, when hundreds of thousands of ordinary wives and mothers sprouted wings, scales, and talons, left a trail of fiery destruction in their path and took to the skies. Was it their choice? What will become of those left behind? Why did Alex's beloved Aunt Marla transform, but her mother did not? Alex doesn't know. It's taboo to speak of. Forced into silence, Alex nevertheless must face the consequences of this astonishing event. A mother more protective than ever, an absentee father, the upsetting insistence that her aunt never even existed, and watching her beloved cousin Bee become dangerously obsessed with the forbidden. So those are the 24 must-reads of 2024. My camera is running out of battery, so let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys, and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!